Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Shit Loretta Knows. So today we are talking about your best life, and if you've seen any of my previous posts, you know that I've got a training that is called just that. I'm not going to spend a whole half an hour blathering on about why you should join. So I do believe that I am largely living my best life. Now, does that mean that my life is always peachy? Absolutely not. Does it mean that I have everything that I want? No, absolutely not. But do I feel as if I'm living my best life? Absolutely yes. And the truth is that you can live your best life too. And so by living your best life, I don't mean the things that we're grateful for, because we've all got blessings in our lives. We can all be grateful for that, and they're important, right? But that's not what I mean by living your best life. What I mean by living your best life is, do you enjoy high vitality? Do you feel as if your life has meaning? Do you feel largely fulfilled by your life? What's the quality of the relationships in your life like? Do you like what you do for a living? Do you have fun? Do you challenge yourself? Do you feel as if you're strong and empowered? Those are the ways that I judge whether we're living our best lives or not. So if you want to do a quick audit on your life to see whether you're living your best life, you can do the following. So if we look at the 7 main categories of life, give yourself a score of 0 to 7 for each one of those. So the first category is spiritual. Now, this doesn't mean religious necessarily, or doesn't even mean tied to a spiritual practice, but how closely aligned do you feel that you are to that part of you that you associate with spirituality? How much do you feel that you live in alignment with what your soul is longing to express? How connected do you feel to the earth and the world? And what do you believe about what exists beyond your body and your thought and your emotions, and how connected and secure do you feel in your spiritual connection? So score that from 0 to 7. I score 6 for that, right? Then the mental, okay, no, not are you mental? It's like, what do you score in terms of learning new things, your capacity to embrace new things, your ability to change your thinking, your ability to recognize where your thinking might be limited and where it's holding you back. I score myself a 7 for that one. The next category is your vocation, what you do for a living or what you feel called to do. So you might not make any money out of this, but this is what you spend a lot of your time doing. That's what you spend like your average 8 hours a day doing. How closely connected do you feel to what you do for a living? Do you feel like it's a vocation? Do you feel that it has meaning? Does it give meaning to your life? That's how I judge it, as being a vocation. Does it give meaning to your life? Do you feel like you're making a difference? Do you feel as if your job matters? Beyond just making you money and, I don't know, helping you look after your family. And that may be vocational in itself, right? So this is purely subjective. This is how do you score whether you are actually scoring high in the area of vocation or not. So I score myself a 7 there. Vocation can also include business. I don't score myself a 7 in business. I probably only score about a 4 in business because I'm not really good at business and business is not really my jam. Then the next category is financial. How are you with your money? Do you make enough money? And this doesn't mean are you rich? It just means, do you manage your money well? Do you manage to save money? Do you feel as if you've got a fairly good relationship with money? Do you spend money responsibly? Do you treat it responsibly? Do you think it comes to you in a way that serves you? Or are you constantly on the quest for making more of it or not being able to keep it? I score poorly. This is my poorest score. I score about 3 for this one. And then the next category is relationships. This would be partnerships. This is not friendships. This is more relationships with a life partner, relationships with your close family, with your biological family, with your nuclear family. What do you score from 0 to 7 on those kind of relationships? The next one is health. I score 7 on relationships because I think my relationships are great. Then you might think I'm delusional, but this is subjective. This is based on what you think. This is not based on what anyone else thinks about your life. Then the next category is health. This is your health and or your beauty. So, you know, how much vitality do you have? How much physical health do you have? What's your mental health like? What's your emotional resilience like? What is your energy? What's your general energy level like? What is your level of health? What's your cholesterol and your blood pressure and your, I don't know, what is that like? What do you score it out of 7? At the moment, I feel really great, so I'm scoring myself a 6. And then the last one is social. This is your friends. This is your network. This is who you are connected to. Now, this can be your friends and your friendships, but it also includes who you can influence. It does include your larger network. So what would you score yourself out of a 7 on that one? And so then what you do is you add up all those scores and you basically give yourself a figure out of 49. Now, 49 is a bit of a bizarre number, but just imagine it's 50. So, if you score less, if you score 24 or less, it means you're just basically you're just passing. If you score less than 24, if you score 24, you're passing. If you score less than 24, you're not even passing, right? If this was a subject at university, you wouldn't be passing it. So, why? Which areas do you think you could score higher at? And why are you scoring low in the areas that you are scoring? You may say, well, what about joy and fun? Just incidentally, mine is 42/49. I'm a really high achiever, so. What about joy and fun or adventure? Well, we don't need a separate category for joy, fun, and adventure, because every single one of these categories has the potential to be joyful, to be fun, and to provide you with adventure. You don't need that outside of these main areas of your life. And if you've got to go and look for joy and adventure and fun outside of your spiritual health, your mental health, your vocation, your money, your relationships, your spiritual connection, as I said, your social connections, your mind, I said all of those things. If you're looking for it outside of that, then of course you don't have time for fun and joy. Well, because you spend all your life doing all this other shit, and then fun and joy falls by the wayside. So why do we score low? Why do we not score higher than we do? Well, first of all, for those of us who are older, we might say, well, because we're realists. We've been there, we've done that, and we've realized that life is actually just not as peachy as we thought it was going to be when we were maybe in our 20s, and so we are realistic. Well, the truth is, everybody's version of reality is different, and everyone has a filter based on how they judge their reality. And what ends up happening is, because we spend most of our lives living and creating from fear and limitation, we keep on creating the same patterns over and over and over. And so as a consequence of that, we feel as if, as we get older, that, every time, the older we get, the more it reinforces the truth that actually, well, life is quite sucky, guys. And then, I don't know, hopefully you don't suffer too much and then you die. So that is not real. That is not real, because it's entirely subjective. Just as scoring these areas of life is purely subjective. So whether you are, when you're creating the same patterns over and over in your life, that is subjective, because you're basing that on your filter of reality. It's also what we see happening to people around us. So just because everyone else is miserable, my friends, doesn't mean that you have to be miserable too. And because we accept that disillusionment is normal as you get older, and that survival is what the best we can hope for, and that aging is normal, and that we're supposed to have less energy, and we're supposed to have more aches and pains, and we're supposed to become more anxious and overwhelmed and less resilient. We believe that all of that is inevitable. Now, those are beliefs. Your beliefs are personal, and they're not actually real. So what's another reason why we score hard? So the first one is because if we're older, we're realists. If we're younger, if we're still in our 20s and maybe our early 30s, it's because we realize life is hard, right? Or we're unlucky. Others are luckier than we are. Life is difficult. And what we do under those circumstances is we've given the power to external circumstances. Now, your rational mind will say, well, Loretta, I don't have any freedom. I have to pay taxes and I have to obey the laws of the land. The truth is, my friends, you don't have to do any of that stuff. There are consequences if you don't do that stuff, but you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Everything in life is a choice, and you're either making your choices consciously or you're making your choices unconsciously, but your life is a culmination of every choice you've ever made. Now, there's no judgment in that. This is not so that you can hate yourself. This is just so that you can actually face the truth of your reality, and that your reality is what it is because of the choices that you have made. And yes, you may have had a raw deal, for example, right? Handed out right at the beginning. But even so, the quality of your life is based on the questions you ask and the choices that you make. And there are lots of stories of people who have had extreme trauma, actually were born in extreme adversity, and have actually managed to triumph in their lives. Now, I'm not talking about lots of money or fame, although if that's what you're after, by all means, go for it. It's there for the taking. I'm talking about people who actually live lives of meaning despite the fact that they have had lots of trauma. And the truth is, my friends, no matter how lucky any of us think we were, we have all been traumatized because we've all had unmet needs. So we might not have what we call big T trauma, which is like hectic life events happening to us, but we've had small T trauma, which is needs that haven't been met. And feelings feel the same. Feelings don't have a grade. They don't have, sad is sad. There's not like 100 sad and 10 sad. There's sad. And sad is subjective again, right? And so no one can tell me that the degree of grief I feel because of something that may have happened in my life is not the same as the degree of grief someone else may feel because they've had a severe trauma. Grief is grief, and we all feel it intensely, and no one can measure whether your intensity of feeling is less than mine or whether yours is right and mine is wrong. Okay, so we give our power away to external circumstances. That's the third reason why we score low in terms of whether we're living our best life or not. The fourth reason, that's the second reason. The third reason is because we believe that we need fixing. We believe we can only be happy when we fix the fuckery that's going on inside us. And most of us don't know how to fix that. Some of us are not even aware that it's there. Most of us are aware that it's there, and we're not sure how to fix it. So we've tried numerous things. So we may have tried the therapy, and we might have done new age spirituality, and we may have done personal development, and we may have done law of attraction. And the truth is that may have all worked for a short period of time, but at some point it sort of circles back on itself, and we're back where we started, or we've created the same kind of pattern over and over again. And part of the reason is because we believe we need fixing. So I'm here to tell you that you don't need to be fixed in order to create your best life. This is exactly why there are people who have had severe trauma, who haven't managed to fix their trauma. They haven't changed the trauma. It's still there. They've still had the trauma, but they can still live their best lives. The fourth reason that we score low in the living the best life score is because we want to be right. We don't want to be miserable, but if we are miserable and we have all these valid reasons for why we are miserable, we want to be right in terms of the fact that, well, I'm miserable because these are all my reasons. And wanting to be right and creating what you love are two completely diametrically opposing things, because wanting to be right is looking for safety. Wanting to be right is looking for the security and the safety that being right is going to give us, which means that it's based on fear. If you're looking for security and safety, you're creating from fear. Whereas creating what you love, well, you don't give a fuck about being right or not. You focus on the end result of what it is that you would love to create. And the fifth reason is because we don't believe we can have what we want. That's actually the biggest one. We don't believe that we can have what we want. And the reason why we don't believe that we can have what we want is because of those limiting beliefs that we develop in our early childhood in response to our unmet needs or our trauma. And those limiting beliefs are always things like I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, I'm invisible, I don't matter, I don't belong, I don't have the capacity or the capability, I need to be in control, I need to be perfect. All of those things that can be different for different people, but basically they are running the show. And at the end of the day, when we are really honest with ourselves and we're alone with ourselves, we don't believe that we deserve to live our best lives. And I'm here to tell you that that's also a lot of bollocks. It's not true. So we all have the capacity, my friends, to create our best lives. We all have the capacity to create our best lives. And that is one of the reasons why I do what I do, because I want to create my best life for me, and I want everyone else to create the best lives for themselves. And so this is why I have put together Your Best Life training. Now, I didn't really put it together for that reason. I put it together so that I could help my clients, so that I could help my group coaching clients get more bang for their buck out of the group programs that they enroll in, that I can help my one-to-one clients actually have more structure and more of a system that they can apply in their way, in their own unique way, not like if you don't do it my way, it's not going to work, not at all. And so I've decided I can make this a standalone program. So everyone who goes into the group programs gets to do this. But if you don't want to sign up for a group program or you don't want to do one-to-one coaching with me, you can also have access to this. And this is the Your Best Life training. It's going to be running over 3 evenings, 3 hours an evening. Sounds like a lot, but you know what? At the end of those 9 hours, you are going to have had the experiences of the practices. I'm not just going to tell them to you. We are actually going to go through them, and you're going to literally create a business plan for an area of your life. Your way, not my business plan that I think is going to work for your life, because my business plan is working for my life, but it might not work for your life. You're going to create your business plan, well, your relationship plan, your money plan, your career plan, your health plan. I would suggest you start with your health plan, just because, when you've got great health, everything else becomes easier. And at the end of those 3 sessions, you are going to have that plan. Now, you can draw up an amazing business plan and do nothing about it and never float the business. That's entirely up to you. But if you've got a plan, you can start taking action in the direction of getting that plan to come to fruition. And that is what I hope that you will do. So in the way that I work and in the way that we put this together, there are a couple of premises that we build on, right? And the first one, they're not in any particular order, right? But these premises include things like we create it all. We have to take responsibility for our creation because we create it all, because we've got free will and we make choices, whether we make them consciously or whether we make them unconsciously. We are creating it all. We are creating our lives. The second is that we're all powerful creators. We all have different talents. We all have different backgrounds. We all have different intellectual capacity. We all have different emotional intelligence. But we all have one thing in common, and that is that we all have that divine creative spark within us, which allows us to become powerful creators. The third premise is that external circumstances do not have the power. Because if you give your power away to external circumstances, like life is hard and I'm unlucky, well, then you're going to keep on reinforcing the reality that life is hard and you're unlucky. And so, like during depressions and recessions, there are always people who lose a lot of money and people who really struggle. And then there are people who make tons of money. Now, it's usually the rich that make more money, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to judge that now. The fact is that some people are very much affected by an economic recession and other people very much benefit from an economic recession. Are the ones who benefit lucky and the ones who don't benefit unlucky? Maybe, but maybe the ones who benefit are lucky because they're not lucky. Maybe they just have made different choices in their lives. So external circumstances don't have the power, because if external circumstances have the power, then you are at the whim of fate. The third premise is that there is no right way. This is my favorite one. There's only your way. That's why I'm saying your plan for your life is going to look different than my plan for my life. But the tools we use to create the plan are going to be the same. That's what I'm going to teach you. The next premise is that it can be easy. Oh, I struggle with this one, okay? Because my limiting belief is I'm not good enough, which means everything's got to be a struggle so that I can struggle and triumph and be strong. Oh, what a terrible strategy, okay? All it does is exhaust me. But it can be easy. You just have to get out of the way. And I'm going to show you tools and techniques to decrease your resistance so that you can get yourself the fuck out of the way and create what you would love. And then the other premise is that your focus creates your reality, not your attitude. So the nice thing about this is that you don't have to be positive. You don't even have to believe that you can have what you want to create. You just have to recognize that when that belief is running the show, that you don't believe it, right? What does that belief make you want to do? Because it will influence your choices. And if you notice what that is, and then you choose not to do that, you use your will to resist that, and you actually make different choices, that's when you can override that. It's not going to go away. You're not going to change it, but you are going to behave differently in spite of it. And the last premise is that what serves you, when you are serving yourself at the highest level, when you are aligned with your spirit, what serves you serves others. And so this work is never selfish, because when you get high vitality and optimal, the better I feel, the more information I can give you and the better you can feel. Well, the better I feel, the nicer I am to my family and the more connected we are. The better I feel, the more I connect with my friends and the more they feel loved and valued. The better I feel, about my money, about my business, about my health, about what I look like, about my strength, all of that, right? The more joyful you are, well, the more you spread the joy around. And so what serves us serves others. So why don't we just do all these things? Why don't we do the things that we know are good for us? Like, why don't we just eat more vegetables and drink more water and exercise more regularly, for example? Well, because in response to those limiting beliefs that we developed when we were children, tiny little children, we have coping strategies. And those coping strategies are always there trying to keep us safe. But in the long term, they always affirm what we believe about ourselves. And so if you believe that you're not worthy, you're not going to take the time and the trouble to cook the vegetables, drink the water, make the time to exercise, make the time to pray and meditate or whatever it is, because there's never enough time for all this self-care. This self-care stuff, I often hear people say, oh, it takes so much time. And it's true. I think that too. I'm like, oh my God, I've got so many things to do. I don't have time to fuck around for an hour now. Exercising and meditating and journaling and all that shit takes like 2 hours of my morning. Why would I want to do that? Because I constantly have to prove that I am more than good enough, and I don't have time to waste on the self-care stuff. I need to be proving myself out there in the world, right? And those are the kind of strategies that hold us back. And the strategies are an attempt to keep us safe. So the strategies are not bad. They're part of our ego reality, and they are an attempt to keep us safe because they kept us alive between the ages of 0 and 3. They are what saved us. But here's the thing, guys, reality check. None of us are 3 years old anymore. We're all grown-ass humans. Problem is, we're grown-ass humans being run by our 0 to 3-year-old programming. So your spirit is, think of it as a bird. It's a swallow. It's flying free. It gets to migrate. It gets to do what it needs to do. I mean, swallows are such happy little birds. Like, choo, 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 choo. Oh, those striped swallows. They're so adorable, right? And they always look so happy. And they look so, like, free when they're flying and they're soaring in the sky. Imagine that's your spirit. Your ego is your spirit put in a cage. Well, your ego is actually the cage. And what happens is you build this cage around your free spirit. And your spirit gets trapped in the cage. And the cage is all your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, all the unconscious agreements you've made with yourself, all the guilt that you feel about the shit you haven't done properly, or the shit you have done that's caused trouble for other people. And so what ends up happening is we get trapped in the cage. Our spirit gets trapped in the cage of our ego. Now, your ego communicates to you through your thoughts and your emotions, and your spirit communicates to you through your intuition. And at any one time, you've got 2 streams of consciousness, your ego, the unconscious stream, and your superconscious or the spirit stream, and they are consciously creating your reality through your subconscious mind. And your subconscious doesn't care who's sending the loudest signal. It just carries out the command of whoever is sending it the most information. So if your focus is on your ego limitations, you are going to keep on creating circumstances and attracting people in your life that are going to reinforce the truth of what you ultimately believe about yourself, that you're not worthy, or that you're not good enough, or that you're invisible, or that you don't matter, or you don't belong, any one of those, okay? Whereas when your focus is on what your spirit is longing to express in this life, then you can focus on what it is you'd love to create. Despite the fact that all those bars of your cage still exist, you can choose to open the door, because the door's actually always open, and you can fly free. Now, this can be really scary, but it's so worth it, okay? So your will is what allows you to shift your focus. That's where you need to use your will. That's where having a will comes in. Is, you recognize what your programming is. You recognize what your programming wants you to do. You recognize that that doesn't serve you, and you can almost see where it's going to end. And then you connect to what your soul would long to express. And then you ask yourself, okay, what action do I take then? And then you have a choice. Which one are you going to do? So, as I say, I've created this program, and one of the things that I think is amazing about it, besides the tools, because I think they're amazing, is that I have made this a pay what you can afford. So it has a cost. It costs 1,850 Rand. I think that's a very reasonable cost for 9 hours of live training with me. It's on Zoom, but it's live. I'm going to be there. I'm not just sending you recordings. And it's $100, 1,850 Rand. But I have also made it a pay what you can afford option. So if you cannot afford that, you can pay whatever you can afford. You'll see if you go to the registration page, it says buy it now. It'll be naught, but I've written on the page, there's my banking details. You're going to click the buy it now. You're going to register. I'm going to send you the email that has the links and all the rest. And you are going to pay whatever you can afford. And I trust that those of you who can afford to pay the full price will pay the full price. And those of you who cannot will pay what you can. So one of the most common objections to anyone doing any kind of personal development work with anyone is the cost. I can't afford it. It's the one that I hear most often from any potential client. They get on the phone with me, we have a call, they're really in, they're very happy. I tell them the price, they're very unhappy because they think it's too expensive and they can't afford it and they can't make a plan. What? Cost, biggest objection, biggest resistance. I've just taken it out of the way for you. There is no objection. If you pay me 5 Rand, that's fine. If you pay me 0 Rand, that's also okay. If you pay me 100 Rand, amazing. If you pay me 1,850 Rand, mwah, be so happy. But you know what? I'm not going to check who pays me what, and I'm going to leave it to you. It's like one of those honesty boxes that you get, when you're selling eggs or honey and you put the honesty box. I just trust that people are going to put their money in the box, okay? Because I choose to believe that human beings intrinsically want to do the right thing, whatever they think the right thing is. And I also know this. The people who can't afford it but are really committed, they will pay very little or nothing, but they will be there. The people who can afford it but actually think they want to do it and are whatever, whether they pay or don't pay, the ones who don't pay and who are not committed, they're the ones who fall out. And that's okay, because you know what? There's no right way. There's no right way. My way is not the only way. My way is not the right way. I am living my best life, and I would love for you to live your best life too. And if you choose to learn how to live your best life this way, I'd be so happy. The second reason that people don't want to do it is to say, well, will this work for me? Well, I don't know if it'll work for you, but I do know this. If you keep on doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got. So if you don't even try, you're definitely not going to get a different result. If you try, you may not get a different result. But you know what? There's a 50% chance that you may. So if you do nothing, nothing's going to change. The third objection is, well, what if it's too hard? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you this now. This is so simple. It's not hard at all. It's really simple. What is hard is overcoming the programming of your cage. That part is difficult, but the actual understanding of it and the actual doing of the exercises, honestly, it is so, so simple. So I want to ask you about it being hard. Imagine it is really hard. How hard is it having your life feel like it's drudgery? How hard is it having aches and pains every day? How hard is it feeling inflexible? How hard is it feeling anxious and overwhelmed and stressed? How hard is being despairing? How hard is it to have this life that's stretching in front of you and that you just think, oh, fuck, it's just going to be more of the same old, same old. You're going to snatch little bits of happiness where you can. And what you're actually mostly going to do is numb yourself. You're going to watch more TV. You're going to work harder. You're going to exercise harder. You're going to eat more. You're going to drink more wine. You're going to go out and get hammered. Whatever it is that you're going to do to cover it up. That's hard, my friends. I think that is hard. So just remember that all resistance keeps you stuck in the cage of your ego. And when we change, the world changes. And so I've said this before. So we're entering into this age of Aquarius, and, you know, it's going to be about collaboration, and Saturn has now moved out of Capricorn and it's into Aquarius, and, you know, this new world order and la, 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 all that stuff, whatever. It all sounds like it's going to be wonderful. The rise of the divine feminine. Guys, it doesn't matter what the fuck happens in the astrology. It doesn't matter what happens out there, okay? What it matters is what happens in here. So if each one of us just actually allows ourselves to live our best life, remember, what serves us serves everyone. What will happen is we will reach a tipping point, and there'll be enough humans that actually know how to stand in their true creative power. And then, my friends, we will change the world and we will become unstoppable. It might not happen in my lifetime, but you know what? It might happen in the lifetime of my child. And in fact, if I live long enough, it might still happen in my lifetime. And I would love to see that. So if you want to be part of this, if you don't give a shit about the movement and the collaboration and changing the world, that's also okay. If you just want to learn how it is that you can create what you would love so that you can live your best life, then I would urge you to join the Your Best Life program. I am going to put a link to that in the comment below. You can register. You can pay what you can afford. If you can afford to pay the full price, please pay the full price. If you can't, pay whatever you want to pay. And I will see you at Your Best Life training on Tuesday. Starts on Tuesday, the 11th of July. I hope to see you there. If you guys are watching here live, please type live. If you're watching if you're watching the replay, please type replay, and I will put the link to the sales page in the comments.